I want to get to the news first about Melani Pawlowski. So to kind of set the stage for you yesterday and then bring you the new news. Yesterday, the prosecution said they intended to call Eaton Pawlowski. Eaton is married to Melani, and the defense raised an issue that they believed that Eaton had observed or read other witness testimony, which is not allowed. So there was a hearing held without the jury in there and without Eaton in there to decide whether he should be disqualified from the witness stand. Ultimately, they brought Eaton in. They questioned him about his consumption of the media. He said he'd only seen a few headlines, and that was it. And so they allowed him to remain in the court. And he began his testimony with prosecutors asking questions. And he talked about how he wore a recording device or had a recording device for the first about 2 weeks of his marriage. Because he was freaked out by the stuff that Melani was saying that her aunt and new uncle, Chad, were participating in. So we left court yesterday thinking that we were going to hear those recordings. The defense said they intended to play the recordings. We got out of court early because they were going to go and download the recordings and get them ready. So the first thing this morning we'd hear would be the recordings. We also knew that Melani Pawlowski had been in town. We had seen her, I believe, Monday, Tuesday, yesterday was Wednesday, so there was kind of this anticipation building, I guess, that for people that are interested in this stuff, that Melani was going to take the stand. So today, Eaton gets on the stand, but there is a long hearing without the presence of the jury of whether the recordings should be admitted. The defense argued that they were hearsay because there's other people on the recordings, and they're not there to actually say, yes, that was me, such as I think Zulema was on the recordings and Melanie Gibb was on some, I believe, and Chad and Lori and not the defense. The prosecution said it was hearsay. The prosecution did not want the tapes admitted. The defense did. And the defense said, we want one tape admitted. We want one recording admitted. And it was 55 minutes, I think. And 55 minutes. And the judge said no. The judge said they're not coming in. So we didn't hear the recording, but Eaton was examined, and I want to talk about that. Well, Eaton leaves the stand, and everyone's expecting that Melani Pawlowski will be next. There was even a break, I believe, and they call the next witness, and it's not Melani Pawlowski. And everyone's like, what happened to Melani Pawlowski? Well, I learned pretty quick that she wasn't in the courthouse and that she actually went home to Arizona yesterday. So I reported that. That's what I just told you. I reported Melani Pawlowski's not in the courthouse. She has gone home. Her husband is still here. Actually, no, her husband, I believe, was on the way to the airport or at the airport. I leave about an hour or so later. I go to lunch, and as I'm walking into the courthouse, someone's like, was Melani held in contempt? Was Melani arrested? What's going on? And I'm like, no, she was able to leave. She left. Well, is she still under the subpoena? What happened? I didn't think much of it. Went inside the courthouse. I'm reporting on the hearings, and apparently rumors went wild. And so just a few minutes ago, I got a phone call from her attorney, her Idaho attorney, Josh Garner. Full disclosure, I've known Josh for years. I think Josh is a great guy. He actually helped me. My first major story that went like viral 15 years ago, it was Josh's client. It was a dog that was shot by a cop, and the dog survived. Anyway, long story, it's out there. Josh called and he said, I want to set the record straight about what happened with Melani and why she left. He said that they arrived, Melani and Ian arrived in Boise, and Josh, Monday afternoon. They anticipated testifying Tuesday around 1. So they get to the courthouse Tuesday, and around 3:30, they're told they can go back to the hotel because court was over. So they get here Monday. They anticipate that they'll testify Tuesday. Tuesday, they don't testify. They show back up at the courthouse Wednesday at 10 a.m., yesterday at 10. She never took the stand. When court wrapped up yesterday at 3:30, the prosecutors told Melani she could go home, according to Josh Garner. They said she might be called again to testify, She remains under subpoena, and they're waiting to hear from the prosecutors if she'll be called back. So that's that. That's it. She could be called back to testify, but at this point, she is home and she will wait that call. She's not in contempt of court. She was not arrested. She didn't do anything wrong. The prosecutor simply said, we're not going to have you testify. Again, she does remain under subpoena. They could say something and maybe she shows up early next week. I don't think she'll show up tomorrow. I mean, we don't know, but court's going to end tomorrow at noon. And if she's in Arizona tonight, she's not going to be there. So that is what happened with Melani Pawlowski, directly from them. And we don't know if we'll hear from her in this trial or not. The defense has not subpoenaed her, as far as I know, as far as I've been told. I guess they could, but she remains under subpoena, and so she could get called back. That means she, isn't supposed to watch any testimony or whatnot. That was discussed yesterday in the hearing. You remember that they were concerned that Ian said that Melani, after her ex-husband Brandon testified, she went online and read some of the headlines about the testimony because they're involved in a child dispute. So, that maybe that was why the prosecutors let her go. I don't know, and I'm not sure, but she does remain under subpoena, and that is what happened with Melani Pawlowski. That is all I know. For those of you who are very curious, and honestly, a lot of us are, because she's an integral part of this story in this case, and I think a lot of people were looking forward to hearing from her. She knew a lot, knows a lot, and defended her niece publicly. I did an interview with her and Ian. I remember it was Mother's Day weekend 2020 on Zoom because COVID restrictions were in place. We couldn't travel. She was in Arizona with her attorney, so was Ian. Nothing was off the table. I could ask whatever I wanted. We were just figuring out Zoom. It was kind of this brand new program. And I think that I talked to them for 2 or 3 hours. We have the whole interview up there. She defended Lori. She said the kids would be found. She stood by her side. And clearly that's not the case. And I imagine that her thoughts have changed about that. So that's what happened with her. Now,